Welcome one more day to live ENArmonya. This time I started playing a very ancient instrument known in Greek as Lira. In French it's known as Lyre, and in Spanish we say Lira as well. In English people say Lyre, a term I don't like because the instrument in itself does not lie. Musicians lie when they express certain gestures that do not correspond with the music they are playing or the depth of certain tunes. You find much affectation and exaggeration in the interpretation of instruments, something which I don't understand. And the lira in particular has something magical, just as the harp. The harp is the sister of the lira. Both are a type of kithara, another Greek term that included many different types of string instruments, different models of liras, harps, later on lutes, which are the origin of the guitar. Guitar is related to kithara. Even in India they have an instrument known as sitar. It's a very resonant type of instrument. And for me, it was time to introduce, finally, a string instrument with resonant qualities, with a richness of harmonics. You can also play harmonics here. And this makes the range of interpretation greater. Now, I will be using the lira to explain a very important subject that has to do with attuning ourselves with the primordial vision, the primordial will that makes us transcend negativistic views, nihilism, the sense of emptiness, of opposition, darkness, meaninglessness. And I found out that all that can be explained with the lira. Actually, the lira was used in ancient myths, such as the legends of Orpheus, the god of music. Also, the Celts used the lira, and there are many stories about how the bards and druids were able to release enchantments in nature and communicate with the cosmos using the harmonias of the lira. Actually, a tradition says that before becoming druids, they had to learn the lira and become bards. Bards were the transmitters of ancient traditions, and they used instruments with which they sang the old sagas, the old myths, which were a transmission of ancient knowledge. So the lira is a symbol of cosmic harmonia, magic, transmission of wisdom. And I understood why recently, when I received the instrument, I started noticing many things which I had never realized before. First of all, if you notice, this instrument is made of different elements. The craftsman from Madrid, which is known as Alberto Mengs, made it using materials from different countries. For instance, the resonance box is a pumpkin, half pumpkin, dried obviously, and it comes from Niger, Africa, which is a very root-based country. The ethnic groups there lay emphasis on that root center that anchors you to the earth, so the resonance of music is related to that aspect. Then we have the skin from Turkey. This is the membrane of resonance. The strings, 10 strings by the way, are made of nylon, which is very typical in modern guitars or in harps. Then we have the two masts that are made of beech wood, and I don't know the origin, but obviously they come from nature. And when something apparently dead is turned into an instrument, then you bring it to life again. And there are two representing, as I noticed, the opposites: heaven and earth, right and left, up and down, man and woman. And they are reconciled by the top part where we find the tuners. And these tuners, which are made of metal, come from guitar. So it's easy to tune. Obviously, they didn't use guitar tuners in ancient liras, but this gives the instrument a combination of the ancient and the modern. And I have to say, it's a very nice resonant instrument, very good relation quality price, and it also has other aspects which represent not just the cosmos, but the experience of the human being on earth. And this is why I want to use this instrument as a symbol of the subject of this week, explaining that we have to overcome the negativity, the pessimism, the sense of obstacles by developing a more holistic view, and also accepting there are relative viewpoints which depend on the state of evolution of each person. And this has to do with music. It has nothing to do with relativistic views, because we are not saying anything is valuable or that nothing matters. No, there are primary values: goodness, justice, truth, beauty. Those are the fundamental, transcendental values that can be expressed by music, by our manifestations. Human beings in particular are made from different elements of the cosmos. Here you find a symbol of the four cardinal points, the four elements: earth, water, air, and fire. And in the middle we would have the fifth, ether. So this is also a symbol of our constitution. We have 5 fingers on one hand, which represent those 5 elements that we have to harmonize within ourselves so we can elevate the cosmos. Or even souls and spirits that came many thousands of years ago and got trapped on this planet. This is told in many legends. In the book of Genesis, we are told that Adam was made from the dust of Adamah, not the dust of this physical earth. The dust of Adamah is the residue of different star systems, because Adamah was an astral type of dimension. And from those star systems, which include the Pleiades, close to Taurus, and Orion, and also Sirius, all those regions mentioned in ancient myths were the origin of spirits and souls that contain fallen elements, but also elements full of beauty. So Adam came to be a new being made of different inclinations, and Adam was called to harmonize all the elements so that he could transcend the negativity and elevate the part of the cosmos that was fallen. Life came to be trapped on different star systems, especially on this Earth. So the Earth is an experiment made to integrate elements that had fallen in other star systems. There were rebellions, wars, confusions, and we are told about that in many ancient myths told by the ancient bards. Actually, the bards used the Lyra to explain and sing all these ancient myths. Is a perfect symbol of what I'm explaining for reasons that are not just the construction, because we also find little nuances. For instance, when this instrument came and I opened the box, I immediately noticed that it has a little defect here. It doesn't affect the sound too much. I have to stop the vibration with a piece of paper. I will use leather instead to stop that tiny vibration which is annoying. But you can make beautiful music despite this little defect. And I also noticed the pumpkin has something which I thought was a hit, but it seems as if the pumpkin already had that characteristic. Some parts of the fruit get rotten or slightly pushed down, and when this got dried up, it remained. So it's not just a hit. It doesn't affect the sound either. I also noticed there is a little screw here which is not fully into the wood, so I will try to screw it without screwing it. You know what I mean? And in general, it's an instrument that, despite having those little defects, it sounds well. And the same goes for us, because we as human beings have defects. We can even be born with certain defective characteristics. Actually, I was born with my kneecap slightly up, and this makes me prone to have knee injuries. But I adapted myself to this situation. I also keep fit with different types of movements. I was explaining about this the other day. I use them in my sessions therapies, and all that is helping me to go through the paths of lesser resistance, even though we also have to resist before certain manifestations. If they are manifestations of hate or confusion, we have to stop that manifestation and bring something more full of light. So, defects are part of the experience on this earth, and they are speaking about the need for reconciliation, for healing. And we cannot heal or open ourselves to healing unless we embrace painful experiences and transcend the additional suffering that we often bring by negative attitudes, negative thoughts, feelings of harshness. We have to release many tensions. And in music, we have a basic type of tension known as tritone. That one. The tritone has three whole tones, and if you notice it's full of tension, it needs to be resolved. The tensions must be resolved by bringing consciousness, awareness, but also conscience, which is a clear intuition of what we have to do, and it's full of justice, goodness, a sense of truth, the primary transcendental values. And we also have to rescue something inside, something which is trapped, frustrated, which makes us anxious and desperate. And many times when we feel that way, we try to escape with anything we have at hand, food, even music, or passions. So it's necessary to understand why energy is behaving in that way. And for that, we need to develop not only an holistic view and the relative sense of things, because anything is relative to our mode of perception. This world in itself is not bad, or it's not a mere illusion, as it's said in many teachings. It's more an illusion, a symbolic, allegoric illusion of something which is happening inside. As within, so without. Therefore, the world is speaking about something that happened and is still happening within ourselves. So we are recreating the whole tragedy of the human fall. Adam was made from the dust of Adamah and ate from the tree of knowledge of good and deficient instead of the tree of life, which means he mistook the physical world for true reality, and the attitude was of denial. He thought there were things forbidden, starting to believe that the prohibitions or oppositions were the most fundamental aspect, because there were a sort of dichotomy or the need for decision. Choose the tree of life, don't choose the tree of knowledge. And this is setting already a duality, which obviously was part of the way the universe teaches certain lessons. We have to experience the dyad, duality, in order to transcend and understand what reconciliation is. So the problem is not duality in itself. The problem is not that this world is filled with deceptions and shadows. The problem is not realizing that even the shadows and painful situations are teaching something indirectly. They are mirroring, just as the waters mirror everything, be it an ugly face or the sun, it doesn't matter. It's just a reflection, but the reflection is teaching something. There is no relative without absolute, because the absolute cannot be absolute without including something that is relative. Perfection must include imperfection, because perficio is around what is finished. Therefore, we have to go through the unfinished and imperfect in order to find that perfection, starting with our own life. And life in itself cannot die, it has a holy source. The primordial Father of lights is the source of true life. But true life came to be trapped in a world where we got deceived by the energy of the serpent. The energy of the serpent was very strong in the Adam that fell in the Garden of Eden. And that's the reason why, at that time, Adam could not understand what I'm explaining now. Something which was demonstrated by the new Adam, Master Yeshua. He was the manifestation of the primordial light, the primordial love in a human body, but he didn't deny his humanity. He accepted his human condition, and obviously, having a physical body, he inherited the transgression of the first Adam that fell. Because these bodies die, so they are an expression of transgression. In religion, they would say sin, but sin can have connotations that are full of deception. Because we are not sin. In essence, we are holy beings of light. Our true being, our true I, can only be light. There cannot be a true I that becomes false. There are false selves, obviously, but these are just combinations of desires, viewpoints, which are full of negativity, deception, void. So we have to overcome the sense of a false self and bring ourselves to a different harmonia, a different holistic view. If your I is simple, straightforward, your body will be filled with light, Master Yeshu said. The word in Greek there is haplos. If your I is haplos, in Greek means something without hesitation, without messing around with duality, something that goes straight to the point. And if we are able to see reality as it is, we can see truth through the shadows. Even Apostle Paul said that now we see us through a mirror in enigmas, mysteries, but it will come the moment when we will know as we were known, not only as we are in the primordial source, but also during all our journey through the shadows. This will bring a different meaning. When we see our life fully, the shadows and the lights, then everything expands and we are not frustrated in darkness, thinking this is just a meaningless experience. No, we are allowed to bring a deeper truth from a world of lies. And in that sense, this world can also be part of the absolute. That's the definite integration. An integration which must include the possibility of falling, but also the possibility of raising up again. If you fall 7 times, you stand up 8. That's the octave. And even Master Yeshu had temptations in the desert, and he respected the laws of this world. That's why in the myth, the adversary says to him, well, if you are the Son of God, jump from the roof of the temple and see if your God saves you. And he replied, you shall not tempt Yud Hav He Elohim. Because Yud Hav He Elohim are the forces, Elohim, of existence, Havaya, Yud Hav He. And those forces in this particular cosmos can have manifestations such as the heaviness of these material aspects. And obviously, if you jump from a 5th floor, you are going to spread all over. And it doesn't matter if you believe in God or if you have the Son of God within. Even the Son of God, having a physical body, would jump and experience physical death. Because that's part of how Elohim works in this dimension. It doesn't mean it's bad or evil. It's just an aspect of what Newton called the law of action and reaction. So we have to respect certain rules, but also understand that we have come to hell, to the underworld, in order to bring something back to life. The ancient heroes failed. Even Orpheus, with his Lyra, failed. The legend says that Orpheus was able to tame the beasts with the music of his Lyra. He even helped the crew of Argonauts to cross different situations, especially when the members of the boat of the soul were allured by the sirens, the mermaids, those mythological beings associated with Lilith, the energy of passions and voluptuosity desires. So Orpheus started to play his Lyra, and with the 9-string Lyra he harmonized the senses of those men that were in the boat of the soul known as Argos. Now, despite that, there is another story which is beautiful, really inspiring, and it's the story of Orpheus and his beloved Eurydice. She was a woman that represented something of our soul. She was his twin soul, just as Eve was to the masculine side of Adam. But she came to be hijacked by the powers of the underworld. She was brought to Hades, and Orpheus, obviously loving her so much, went to look for his beloved, and there he played the Lyra before the king Hades. And this god king was so amazed by the harmonies of the Lyra that he accepted to release Eurydice with one condition. They had to go back, but he had to keep looking forward and never look back to his beloved as they were ascending. So Orpheus accepted, and they both started to ascend back again. But right when they were getting close to the outlet, Orpheus felt an anxiety, a doubt, a fear of losing her again. So he looked back, and just in that moment, he saw how she was absorbed back by Hades, and obviously he was really upset. He went to the surface, and the legend says that ever since he has been wandering in pain, playing his Lyra in the hearts of many human beings, actually, like myself. Well, the Lyra can be a symbol of how we have to attune, how we have to harmonize the strings of our consciousness, but without forgetting something which is very important, because this is what was missing in the ancient heroes. The hero's journey never was the definite salvation, but Master Yeshua brought something different. He became the new Adam. He was not the fallen Adam, and he was not the recent fallen Adam that falls back again, because there are many teachings that still have that mind whose origin are the stars, but is not strong enough to overcome the deceptions on this world. Now, as I was reflecting on the story of Orpheus, I wondered about the meaning of Eurydice, because I know the meaning of Orpheus. Orpheus comes from Or, which is light or origin, and Theus is light, because Phos in Greek is light. And the Orphics worship the light that came to be trapped in the world. They worship it in the form of a god known as Phanes. And Eurydice is comprised of two terms. Ur, the root Ur, comes from Eurus, I think, which means wide, broad. And DC, it comes from dike, Euridike in Greek. Obviously must be related to dike, which is justice. So when I found out that particular nuance, I understood. Eurydice is broad justice. And broad justice is the contrary of strict justice. This made me think also of Pandora, the figure that made Epimetheus fall, and also Prometheus, his brother. Pandora is all gifts, because our bodies are filled with passions, gifts of beauty as well, many temptations and illusions. In themselves, they are not bad, they are just pointing to a lack. The energy of the serpent lacks reconciliation. That's why it's always seeking. That's the famous Kundalini energy. Kundalini is part of the cosmic energy which is trapped in matter, and it lacks the reconciliation, the third force, the upper part of the Lira. So we have to bring the law of three, active, receptive, and reconciling. By accepting we have a body with passions, but also a mind that can understand or can focus, pay attention, and give us access to a broader awareness which is filled with conscience. Conscience is what tells you what is the path of destruction or what is the path of wholeness, the path of truth. Ancient stories spoke about the path of lies and the path of truth, as in the poem of Parmenides. He spoke of being as what is one, homogeneous, non-divided, and we can experience it here. So he was pointing to a living experience in which we are not denying this world of deception. There are lies, but we can see truth through the lies. And Orpheus lost his beloved because he got filled with fear, doubt, and he looked back. Even in the New Testament, we are told that he who laid his hands on the plow and looks back is not fit for the kingdom of God. No? This is because in many occasions we are in a path of inner growth, but we are filled with the sense of scarcity, doubt, feelings of lack, and this is why we fall back again. And that part of our soul which is life is filled with passions which are a broad justice, not a strict justice. So Eurydice, in my view, is Eve. Eve was trapped by the serpent, and in this case the story is very similar, because the powers of the underworld, Hades, are also an aspect of the serpent, and we have to transform that experience. We cannot deny the serpent. The serpent is going to be there, denying life or sucking vitality, but we have to harmonize energies, bringing the 5 elements. So we have the fire evaporating the water so that the sediments remain on the bottom, and we can find stability, which is the earth. The water is also an element that is teaching how the mind must be. When we allow the water of the emotions to calm down, the sediments go to the bottom, so we can breathe the pure air of life. The air is also related to the mental breath, neshama in Hebrew. And this mental breath is also what elevates us to a different vibration. The key is to manifest a life and a will force that come from the primordial origin, something which is filled with goodness, divine justice, beauty. Only that can overcome the passions of the serpent. Not efforts, not denials of this world, not rituals or techniques. It's more a living experience of our whole process of transformation. So, in this way, we can turn the coarse or dense experience of the five elements into the subtle experience of the five elements. That's the left hand and the right hand. Both have 5 fingers, but the 5 carnal senses are not the 5 spiritual senses. We have a solid ground or solid earth in our soul. We have pure waters, pure air, pure fire, pure ether. But those elements can also be trapped in the powers of the underworld. So, in order to escape the underworld, we don't have to deny the underworld, we have to cross the underworld. Even Master Ishu went to the underworld and preached to the trapped spirits. Those trapped spirits are fallen aspects of Adam, the fallen angels that came from different star systems, the famous Anunnaki, from which modern humanity was made. Not just in Sumerian mythology, but in Greek mythology, in India, in many other parts, we are told about humanity as the ashes of the gods or the inheritors of the gods. This does not mean every human being has a fallen angel. Some people have them. The further you go in the way of evolution, the more you are going to receive these influences because you touch the mental aspect. And there is a dimension from which all these fallen Adamic tendencies are trying to express themselves again through a human being, because we are like an antenna. And therefore we have to modulate perfectly the frequency so we don't channel the wrong manifestation, which was the problem of fallen Adam. He channeled the serpent, the selfish intelligence that can be very clever but not truly intelligent. So our task is to transform our experiences in spite of darkness, negativity. And for that we need to know the science of relativity. This is something that was very well explained by Mr. Gurdjieff, the master of dances, that in one occasion made a brilliant exposition that was written down by one of his pupils, Uspensky, and I will leave that exposition in the blog when I translate the article, which I already published in the Spanish blog. There you'll find the explanation which I give, plus that text, which is brilliant. It's gold, and it will make you understand why there are so many contradictions, confusions in different teachings, because they fall into dogmatic views. They don't realize that every human being is in a different state of awareness. So reality in itself is not an illusion or bad, it depends on your state. We find everything here. Even the absolute can be found through a human body. And that is basically what Master Ishu performed. The word Yeshua in Hebrew means yes, existence, towards the eye of God, which is Ain. In Aramaic, it was pronounced probably as Ishu, or even Ishua, because Isha or Yasha in Hebrew is salvation. and Muslims call him Isa. In Gaelic, they say Aisa. Those words obviously were referring to something which has to do with the reconciliation of this world with the divine source. We are reconciling existence or fallen existence to divine existence. We cannot have the experience of the absolute unless we go through the relative, because the relative is the other side of the absolute. Shadows are because light is. Now, the true light has no shadow, but when true light begins a journey of self-discovery, it must project shadows. So we have to learn from the shadows. Embrace the experience of the shadow, not the shadow in itself. We have to transform the shadow and overcome the shadow, but something must be accepted, and this is the challenge. Anyway, I don't want to make this video any longer. I hope you enjoy the piece of music, the explanation. Remember, there is an article which I will translate into English and I will publish it in the blog. And I will be developing music therapy. I still teach through sessions, but I will make this more interactive, bringing to life the ancient art of music therapy. I'm not the only one. There are many others working in this direction. And for that we need to understand the ancient way of tuning, the ancient way of understanding music, which was lost. And this is why music today is so superficial. Now, having said this, thank you very much for your attention. And let's continue harmonizing mind, heart, and body, overcoming negativistic, pessimistic, nihilistic views that try to deny the body and the world. Let's overcome the negativity in the heart and harmonize the passions so we can manifest a greater energy that eliminates that lack or sense of lacking. Only then we will be able to express the love without limits, life without fragmentation, integral conscience, and deep, blissful serenity.